The first time I raised my hand for Lila Hart's graduation plan, I thought I was being loyal. The second time, I kept both hands flat on the desk and watched my best friend's smile die in front of the whole committee. That was how I knew I had truly come back. Not when I woke up in my old school blazer with my senior badge pinned crooked over my heart. Not when I saw the same rain sliding down the student council room windows, or smelled the same burnt coffee from the teacher's lounge next door, or heard the same muffled lunchtime chaos from the courtyard below. It became real when Lila turned to me with that bright, trusting, terrifying smile and said, "Avery, you'll vote yes, right?" In my first life, I did. Of course I did. Lila was my best friend, the girl who shared lunch with me in year 7 when everyone else laughed at my secondhand uniform, the girl who sat beside me during my parents' divorce hearing because I was shaking too hard to be alone, the girl who knew every secret I had ever whispered into a pillow and somehow made me feel safer for having given them to her. So when she proposed the honest graduation ceremony, I ignored the cold twist in my stomach. I ignored the way half the committee looked uncomfortable. I ignored the little folder in her hands labeled Final Moments Project, tied with a silver ribbon, like a gift. I voted yes because Lila squeezed my wrist under the table and whispered, "Trust me." 3 weeks later, our graduation ceremony became a public humiliation chamber. Private messages appeared on the big screen. Anonymous confessions were read aloud. Scholarship students were ranked by most likely to disappear after school. A boy who had secretly repeated a year had his old report card projected above his parents' heads. A girl's medical leave was turned into a joke about dramatic exits. The whole class broke open in front of families, teachers, donors, and live stream viewers. Lila cried afterward and said the tech files had been hacked. I defended her. I ruined friendships defending her. I signed statements defending her. Then the truth came out too late. She had planned every cruel second, and my vote had helped to prove it. By the time I understood, my name was on the committee record, my university scholarship was withdrawn for participation in misconduct, and Lila had vanished overseas with an apology video that got more sympathy than the people she destroyed. I died at 24, still known as one of the girls who made graduation cruel. So when I returned to that exact vote, that exact rain, that exact hand squeezing my wrist, I looked at my best friend and said, "No." The room went so quiet that even the rain seemed to stop. 12 committee members sat around the long oval table, prefects, class captains, student council officers, 2 teachers, and me, Avery Quinn, the girl everyone assumed existed as Lila Hart's second shadow. Lila was class president, graduation chair, school captain, newsletter face, assembly speaker, fundraiser queen, and the kind of girl adults called remarkably mature because she could say cruel things in elegant language. But to me, she had never been cruel. That was the worst part. Lila was not a stranger wearing a sweet mask. She was my person, my emergency contact, my study partner, the one who knew I hated olives, crowds, and being called brave when I had no choice. In my first life, I spent years trying to separate the girl who held my hand through panic attacks from the girl who used private class submissions to destroy people on graduation night. I never succeeded. Maybe both were real. Maybe that was why betrayal hurt more than hatred ever could. Now she stared at me across the table, her glossy black ponytail falling over one shoulder, her lips parted, her fingers still resting on my sleeve as if my arm had become unfamiliar property. "What?" she said softly. I removed her hand from my wrist with care, because part of me still loved the memory of her. "I vote no." Mr. Sallow, our year advisor, blinked behind his glasses. "Avery, you're voting against the proposal?" "Yes." Lila gave a tiny laugh, the kind she used when teachers misunderstood a joke. "She means not yet. Avery wants revisions." "No," I said, and this time my voice carried to the far end of the table. "I mean no. I don't support the Final Moments Project." That was the first pattern I broke. In my first life, I tried to soften every disagreement with Lila because losing her felt like losing the only witness to my own childhood. I said things like maybe, just probably, I'm sure if you want. She made plans. I adjusted myself around them. Today, I spoke plainly and watched her experience resistance from me for the first time. It did not look like sadness at first. It looked like insult. Then she remembered the room and lowered her lashes. "Can I ask why?" she said, voice trembling with just enough hurt to make 3 committee members shift uncomfortably. The proposal folder lay in front of her, printed on thick cream paper. On the cover, beneath the silver ribbon, was the title that had fooled us all: Final Moments Project, a candid celebration of our class journey. In the first life, it sounded warm, nostalgic, modern. Lila said students were tired of fake speeches and polished award lists. She wanted something real, something honest, something that showed every graduate had struggled and grown. She collected anonymous memories, private reflections, teacher notes, baby photos, student interviews, and truth cards written during homeroom activities. We thought she wanted vulnerability. She wanted ammunition. Because it gives one committee access to private student material without consent over final presentation, I said. Because the screening process is unclear. Because anonymous submissions can be weaponized. Because graduation is not the place to surprise people with their own pain. The room did not breathe. Lila's eyes hardened for half a second before tears softened them again. "That's a horrible way to describe my idea." "It's a precise way," I said. "Precision can feel horrible when the idea is dangerous." Across the table, Daniel Reyes, deputy captain and professional avoider of conflict, cleared his throat. "Maybe Avery has a point about consent. In my first life, Daniel voted yes after I did. Everyone did. My loyalty had functioned like a bridge. If Avery trusted Lila, the plan must be safe. This time, without my vote, hesitation spread. Priya, head of media, flipped through the proposal again. "The anonymous confession reel does seem risky." "It's not a confession reel," Lila said quickly. "It's a growth montage. It says, truth cards may be displayed anonymously or with names where context is meaningful." Priya replied. "Who decides context?" Lila smiled, but there was a crack in it now. "The committee. Obviously." "No," I said. "The proposal gives final editorial control to the graduation chair." Every eye moved back to Lila. She had hidden that line in Section 7 between music licensing and rehearsal duties. In my first life, no one read that far because we trusted her summary. Lila looked at me like I had opened her diary in public. "Avery helped me draft parts of this," she said. That was true. I helped with the introduction. I suggested the phrase shared memory. I never saw Section 7. But truth bent easily in Lila's mouth. "Then I should have read the final version more carefully," I said. "That's on me. But now I have." Mr. Sallow picked up the proposal and turned to Section 7.
His face changed.
Not dramatically. Teachers rarely let themselves look shocked in front of students. But his eyebrows tightened. Final editorial control should not sit with one student. Lila leaned back. "So, you all think I'm planning to hurt people?" Nobody answered. That silence was not mine this time. It belonged to the room. The vote failed by 1.
Mine.
That was the second pattern I broke, and it changed the air in school before lunch ended. Lila walked out of the committee room without waiting for me, which she had never done before in either life. Usually she hooked her arm through mine, steering me through hallways, whispering commentary about teachers' shoes and student council politics. Today, she moved ahead with her silver folder pressed to her chest like a shield. I followed at a distance because grief is not always slow. Sometimes it starts immediately, in the space where a familiar shoulder used to be. In the corridor, students glanced at us. News traveled fast at Northmere Girls. By 5th period, half the grade knew Avery had voted against Lila. By final bell, the story had sharpened into versions. Avery was jealous of Lila's graduation speech. Avery wanted the ceremony to be boring. Avery had embarrassed her best friend for attention. Avery had finally shown her true colors. In my first life, I would have chased every rumor with explanations until my dignity ran out. This time, I went to the library, found the photocopier, and copied the proposal. Section 7. Section 8. Appendix B. Truth card usage. Appendix D. Archival media release. I placed copies in 3 envelopes. One for myself, one for my mother, one for someone I had failed to listen to in my first life. Mara Ives, the quiet yearbook editor who had quit the committee 2 days before graduation and later told me Lila's file names were cruel before the ceremony ever was. I had dismissed her then. I needed her now. Mara found me behind the old art block at 3:40, just as the rain cleared and the brick walls steamed faintly in the winter sun. She had paint on her sleeve, a blunt fringe, and the guarded posture of someone used to being asked for help only after everyone else failed. "You said urgent," she said. "It is." I handed her the envelope. She opened it, scanned the copied pages, and looked at me with sharper interest. "You voted no?" "Yes." Finally grew a spine? In another mood, that would have hurt. Today, it was almost comforting. Borrowed one from the future. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means I need to know why you left the committee." Mara looked toward the courtyard, where Lila stood beneath the jacaranda tree surrounded by girls comforting her. Even from a distance, she glowed with wounded dignity. "Because your best friend is building a guillotine and calling it a photo booth." The words landed in my chest like a key turning. "Show me." Mara hesitated. "If you're still secretly reporting back to her, I voted against her in front of the committee." People fight with friends and make up. Not this time. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for it. Mara noticed. Her expression softened by 1 degree. "Come with me." She led me to the yearbook room, a narrow space smelling of printer ink and old paper. On her computer, she opened a folder of screenshots. File names filled the screen. Crybaby_clip_final, bursary_joke_alt, promise_ring_girl, Daniel_panic_audio, Avery_backup_scuff_needed. I stopped breathing. My name. Backup if needed. In my first life, no clip of me played at graduation because I defended Lila until the end.
She never needed to use me.
The thought made me cold in places I did not know could freeze. Mara clicked one file, but did not play it. These were in the shared media drive for about 15 minutes last week. Then they vanished. I screenshot the folder names because I thought I was losing my mind. "Did you tell Mr. Sallow?" He said Lila probably used joke labels during editing. Mara's mouth twisted. Adults love assuming the most charitable explanation when the student has clean shoes. I stared at Avery_backup_scuff_needed until the letters blurred. "What do you think is in mine?"
No idea.
It was locked. I knew, suddenly, with the certainty of someone who had lived beside a knife, without seeing its handle. My panic attack from year 10 camp. Lila was the only person there. She recorded audio to help me hear how much better I sounded after breathing. She promised she deleted it. Or maybe the voice note I sent her after my father forgot my birthday. Or screenshots from the week my mother and I almost lost our apartment. Backup if needed. Best friends do not need backups.
Strategies do.
Mara closed the laptop. "Why are you really doing this now?" she asked. I thought about lying. Instead, I gave her the only truth that could fit inside normal words. Because I saw what happens if we let her run graduation. Mara studied me for a long moment, then nodded.
"Good.
Then stop thinking this is about one vote. She'll move around the committee. Lila doesn't abandon a plan because people say no. She changes the room where yes happens." Mara was right. Lila's first adjustment came the next morning disguised as forgiveness. She waited at my locker before homeroom, holding 2 coffees from the cafe near the station, 1 oat latte for her and 1 hot chocolate for me, because she remembered I hated coffee. That tiny detail hurt more than any insult could have. "Can we talk?" she asked. Her eyes were red, but not swollen. Lila could cry without damaging her face. I opened my locker. "Here." Privately. "No." Her fingers tightened around the cardboard drink tray. "Avery, I'm trying." "So am I." A few students slowed nearby. Lila lowered her voice. "You humiliated me yesterday. I disagreed with you. In front of everyone. That's where the vote happened." She gave a small laugh, wounded and disbelieving. "You sound like Mara." "Thank you." That landed. Her face shifted, just enough for me to see the anger underneath. You don't understand what I'm trying to do. This class is fake. Everyone smiles and signs shirts and pretends we're one big family, but they were cruel for 6 years. They mocked people, excluded people, used people. Graduation shouldn't let them walk away clean. There it was, the argument that had seduced me too late in the first life. After the disaster, Lila released a statement saying the ceremony was meant to expose hypocrisy. Some people believed her. Some even praised her courage. But she had not exposed cruelty evenly. She chose targets, arranged humiliations, protected friends until they displeased her, and made sure her own pain looked noble. If you want accountability, I said, you don't ambush people in front of their grandparents. Her eyes flashed. Some people only learn when everyone is watching. Including you? She stared at me. Then she stepped closer and whispered, "Be careful, Avery. You know more of my secrets than anyone, but I know all of yours." There it was. Not a threat in the legal sense. A best friend's knife pressed flat against history. I looked at the hot chocolate in her hand, the one she had bought because she knew me, and for one heartbreaking second I remembered the girl who braided my hair before debate finals, the girl who lied to teachers when my cramps were bad, the girl who made me laugh so hard I snorted milk through my nose in year 8. I wanted to ask when she became this person. I was more afraid she had always been this person and had simply loved me inside the same machinery she used on everyone else. Then use them, I said. Her expression flickered.
What?
My voice shook, but I held her gaze. Use my secrets if that's who you are. The hallway had gone quiet.
People were listening now.
Lila smiled sadly, perfectly. I would never hurt you. You just told me you could. She stepped back, tears brightening. I can't talk to you when you twist everything. Then she walked away, leaving the hot chocolate on top of my locker. I did not drink it. Not because I thought she poisoned it. Because some gifts become evidence of the hand that held them. By Wednesday, the official Final Moments project was dead, but its ghost was everywhere. A new student-led farewell surprise appeared in the grade chat, organized outside committee authority. The message said, "Since the teachers want graduation boring, let's make our own senior send-off after rehearsal Friday. Submit funniest memories, unseen clips, honest awards, and farewell messages anonymously." Lila did not post it. Tessa May did, one of her loyal satellites, a girl who always looked harmless until she was holding someone else's screenshot. But the language was Lila's. Honest awards. Unseen clips. Farewell messages. The plan had left the committee and gone underground. That made it more dangerous. Teachers could reject proposals. They rarely caught student fun until someone was already crying. I saved the message, then went to Mr. Sallow. He looked exhausted before I even spoke. "Avery, if this is about Lila, it's about Friday." I showed him the group chat.
He sighed.
Students make informal slideshows every year. Not like this. Do you have proof of harm? Adults love proof before harm and apologies after. I placed Mara's screenshot folder names on his desk. His face paled slightly at bursary_joke_salt. "Where did you get this?" "From the yearbook drive. Mara saw them last week. These may not reflect final content." That's what everyone said in the timeline where graduation became a crime scene. He looked up sharply. I had said too much. But I was tired. Rebirth does not erase exhaustion. It multiplies it. "What?" he asked. I swallowed. "I mean, if we ignore it now, we'll all act shocked later." He rubbed his forehead. "I'll speak with Lila." "No," I said too quickly. "If you warn her, she'll move the files." His expression hardened. "Avery, I can't treat a student like a criminal based on file names. Then treat every student's consent like it matters. Lock the AV system for Friday. Require all graduation media through staff accounts.
Bon anonymous submissions."
He hesitated, not because he disagreed, because action would create conflict with the school's favorite student. "Please," I said, and hated how small the word sounded. "Don't wait for a public disaster to become brave." He did not promise. That meant I needed another route. In my first life, The cruel graduation reel played from the auditorium control booth through a student laptop connected during rehearsal. The teacher supervising assumed it was the approved memory slideshow because the file was titled final_approved_class_send-off. Priya handled AV then, but she had trusted the file Lila gave her. This time, Priya had doubts already. I found her in the media lab editing sports day photos. She stiffened when I entered. If this is about the vote, I'm not picking sides. Good, I said. Pick consent. She rolled her eyes. That sounds like something from a poster.
Fine.
Pick not getting blamed when someone else uses your laptop to ruin graduation. Her fingers froze on the keyboard. I had her attention. I showed her the underground slideshow message, Mara's file names, and the proposal section giving Lila final control. Priya read everything twice. Why would she do this? Because she thinks cruelty becomes justice if she calls it honesty. Priya leaned back. Lila helped me when my brother was in hospital. I know. She got the whole class to make cards. I know. Priya's eyes filled with confusion, which I understood too well. It is awful when evidence argues with gratitude. People can help you and hurt someone else, I said. Sometimes the helping is how they earn enough trust to choose who gets hurt. Priya was silent for a long time. Then she opened the AV booking system. Friday rehearsal uses my login. Change the password. I will. But if she has another laptop, she can still use HDMI. Then we need the principal, not Mr. Sallow. Priya looked terrified. Principal DeMoss won't believe us. I thought of graduation night in my first life. Principal DeMoss standing under the projector glow, face stunned, as the live stream chat exploded. She will if she sees the file before it plays. That became the plan. Not stopping Friday from happening, but making sure the right adults saw the cruelty before the class did. A pattern had emerged across every life I had survived. If you accuse too early, powerful students adapt. If you wait too late, innocent people bleed. If you bring the right witness to the wrong moment, the trap can close on the person who built it. Mara, Priya, and I spent Thursday gathering enough to make Principal DeMoss watch without warning Lila. Mara recovered cached thumbnails from the media drive. Most were blurred, but one showed a slide titled Most Likely to Peak at Orientation with a photo of Daniel crying after losing the debate final. Another showed bursary babies with scholarship students' Year 7 ID photos arranged like a charity ad. My photo was there. So, was Lila's?
No.
Of course not. Priya found an anonymous submission form linked to a private folder under Tessa's account, but the owner permissions showed it had been created from Lila's home IP address. We could not prove content yet, but we could prove structure. I messaged Daniel, who still tried to avoid conflict like it was contagious, and asked whether he had given permission for any debate final footage. He replied, "What footage?" Then, 3 minutes later, call me. By lunchtime, 5 students had confirmed private clips were being requested or uploaded without consent. A group of boys admitted they thought it was just roast awards. A girl named Mina cried when she learned her old medical leave photo might be included. The plan was not a secret anymore, but Lila still did not know how much we knew. That mattered. Thursday afternoon, she found me in the chapel. I had gone there because it was the only quiet place on campus where people rarely looked for me. Dust floated in the colored light from the stained glass windows. Rows of wooden pews stretched toward the small stage used for assemblies. In my first life, after graduation collapsed, I sat in that chapel while the school locked down the live stream and Lila sobbed in the principal's office. I prayed then, not because I was religious, but because I had run out of people to ask. Today, I sat in the back pew with my evidence folder on my lap and listened to the door open behind me. "I knew you'd come here," Lila said.
Of course she did.
Best friends, no hiding places. She walked down the aisle slowly, her footsteps soft against the old floorboards. "Do you remember year 9? She asked. "You failed your piano performance and cried under that pew." She pointed near the front. "I sat with you for 2 hours. I remember." "Do you remember when Emily Cross made that fake account about you?" "Yes." "I found out who did it." I looked at her. That was not the story I knew.
She had comforted me. Yes.
She had said the account disappeared because bullies got bored. "What do you mean?" Lila smiled sadly. I handled it. My stomach turned. Handled how? Does it matter? She stopped. I stared at the girl I had loved most and saw, suddenly, that the pattern had not begun with graduation. It had been there all along, hidden behind protection. What did you do to Emily? Lila sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. I made sure she knew how it felt. You ruined her art portfolio. Her silence answered. Emily had transferred before year 10. We all thought it was because of family issues. Lila had told me not to worry about her. She'd said, some people leave when consequences arrive.
My throat went dry.
You did that for me? I did everything for you. The words should have sounded loving. They sounded like a bill. I stood because sitting beside her made my body remember trust.
No.
You did it because you like deciding who deserves pain. Her face hardened. Some people do deserve pain. Not from you. She rose too. You think the class is innocent? You think Daniel didn't laugh when people mocked your blazer? You think Priya never forwarded screenshots? You think scholarship girls weren't treated like decorations for 6 years? Graduation is the last time anyone will have to look at what they did.
Then show what they did, I said.
With evidence. With names. With consent from victims. Not random humiliations stitched together to make you look brave. Victims don't get consent forms before they're hurt. And that's your excuse to hurt more people? She stepped closer. Her eyes were bright, but no tears fell. You're only against this because your file is in there. My blood chilled. So there is a file. For the first time, she realized she had confirmed too much. She smiled slowly. You always were smart after the moment passed. I took out my phone. Her gaze dropped to it. Recording me?
No, I said.
That was true. I had not pressed record.
I wanted to,
but I had not. Some part of me still wanted one honest conversation with my best friend, even if it cut me open. Then this is just between us, she said.
No, y replía.
That's how you win. I walked past her toward the chapel doors. Behind me, her voice changed. Avery. I stopped. If you destroy this, people won't thank you. They'll protect themselves. They'll call you dramatic. They'll say you betrayed me. I looked back. I already betrayed you yesterday. Her mouth trembled. You voted against me.
No,
I said. I finally voted for everyone else. Friday arrived with blue sky, which felt insulting. Graduation rehearsal began after lunch in main auditorium, where rows of chairs had been arranged beneath gold banners reading our journey, our future. In my first life, those banners hung above parents while their children's private pain played on a screen. I stood backstage with Mara and Priya, both pale, both pretending not to be. Principal Damas had agreed to review the farewell surprise only because Priya used the phrase possible live stream liability in her email. Adults moved quickly when Reputation wore a legal jacket. Mr. Sallow hovered near the aisles, still not fully understanding the size of the thing he had almost allowed. Students filled the auditorium noisily, tossing graduation caps, practicing walking order, laughing too loudly because endings make people act invincible. Lila entered last. She wore her school captain blazer, hair tied back with the silver ribbon she used for formal events, face calm and luminous. When she saw me beside the control booth, she smiled.
Not sadly.
Not angrily. Tenderly. Like I was a friend having a temporary breakdown she would forgive later. That smile hurt more than her threat. Principal Damas stepped into the booth at 1:35. Show me the file, she said. Priya connected the laptop. The folder on the USB was titled approved_send-off_final. Lila had given it to Tessa, who had given it to Priya that morning with a message. L says play after walk order. Priya's hands shook as she opened it. The first slide appeared. Final moments. The truth we take with US. Music auto-loaded.
Key.
Nostalgic.
Deadly.
Principal Damas folded her arms. Proceed. The first 30 seconds looked harmless. Baby photos. Sports clips. Campfire singing. Teachers dancing badly during charity week. Then the tone shifted. The screen displayed the masks we wore. A clip of Daniel crying in a bathroom after debate. A caption, most likely TO need a speechwriter for his feelings. Principal DeMoss stiffened. Next, scholarship student ID photos under the title Bursary Babies. Thanks for the diversity brochure. My year 7 face appeared in the corner. Too small, too scared. Hair cut unevenly because my mother had done it in our kitchen. I heard Priya whisper, "Oh my God." Next slide. Mina leaving the nurse's office, captioned Queen of Mystery Illness. Principal DeMoss reached forward. "Stop."
Wait, I said.
My voice was shaking. "You need to see the structure." She looked at me, then nodded once. Priya let it continue. Anonymous Truth Awards followed. Most likely to fake financial struggle, most likely to cry for marks, most likely to peak as a prefect, most likely to need therapy before uni. Then came a folder tab labeled Avery_backup___ needed. My lung stopped. Principal DeMoss said, "Open it." "No," I said too quickly. She turned to me. "Avery, not unless necessary." My voice sounded far away. "I don't know what's in it, and I don't want my private pain reviewed as sample evidence if the other slides are enough." For 1 second, she looked ashamed. "You're right." She closed the file. That small mercy almost undid me. Down in the auditorium, Lila had noticed the screen was not playing publicly. She stood from the front row and started toward the booth. Tessa followed. Principal DeMoss picked up the USB and walked out before they reached us. "Stay here," she told me. I did not.
Not fully.
I stepped to the booth doorway, close enough to hear, far enough that Lila could not claim I corner her. Principal DeMoss met her in the aisle. "Lila, who approved this file?" Lila blinked beautifully. "What file, Principal?" "The farewell slideshow given to Priya under your instruction." Tessa went pale. Lila turned to her with perfect confusion. "Tessa." It was masterful. Immediate distance. Tessa's mouth opened. Principal DeMoss held up one hand. "Do not answer yet." The auditorium quieted as students noticed the confrontation. Mr. Sallow hurried over. "Principal." DeMoss's voice cut through the room, calm and lethal. "Graduation rehearsal is paused. No student is to leave. Phones away." Naturally, phones came out. Lila's eyes flicked across the audience and calculated faster than anyone else in the room. Then she began to cry. Not loudly. Just enough. If something inappropriate was in a file, I didn't know. We had so many submissions. I trusted people. She looked up toward the booth, toward me. "Avery has been angry with me since the vote. I don't know what she's done." There it was. The final pivot. Best friend to scapegoat. In my first life, I defended her. In this life, she used me before I could defend anyone. The pain was so clean it felt almost surgical. Principal DeMoss looked up at me. The whole auditorium looked up too. My old self would have rushed down, shaking, pleading, explaining our friendship, explaining my loyalty, explaining why I would never. This time, I did not move. I held the railing and said clearly, "I asked you to review the file before it played, because I was afraid Lila would blame someone else if caught." Lila flinched. "That's not true. The proposal you submitted gave you final editorial control. The committee rejected it." Then the same concept moved to an informal student slideshow under Tessa's account. That wasn't me. Priya stepped out of the booth beside me, holding her laptop. "The anonymous folder permissions trace back to your home IP." A murmur moved through the auditorium. Lila's tears paused for half a second. "That doesn't mean content." Mara came out next. "The cruel file names were in the yearbook media drive last week. Before the vote. I have screenshots." Lila turned slowly toward Mara, and the look she gave her was so cold several students saw it. "You've always wanted to matter," Lila said. Not sweet. Not wounded. Sharp. The auditorium heard. Mara's face reddened, but she stood her ground. "I wanted graduation not to become your revenge project." Lila laughed once, and the sound did not belong to the girl everyone knew. "My revenge project?" She looked out at the class, then really looked, and I saw the moment she stopped trying to win the adults and decided to indict the room. "You all want to pretend you're innocent because the slides were ugly?
Please.
Half of you submitted worse. The auditorium erupted. Tessa shouted, Lila. Daniel stood. What does that mean? Lila stepped into the center aisle, tears gone, cheeks flushed with something almost like triumph. It means I didn't invent your cruelty. I organized it. Phones lifted higher. Principal DeMoss said, Lila, stop speaking. Lila ignored her. You sent the clips. You sent the jokes. You sent the confessions about people you smiled at in homeroom. I just made the ceremony honest. You made it public, I said from the booth. My voice was quieter than hers, but the microphone near Priya's laptop caught it and carried it through the speakers. I had not meant to be amplified. The room turned toward the sound. I continued because stopping would be worse. There's a difference between exposing harm and creating more of it. If people submitted cruel things, they should answer for that. But you chose the order. You chose the captions. You chose who got protected and who got humiliated. Lila looked up at me. For the first time that day, her face broke. Not into guilt, into hurt. You were supposed to understand. That sentence almost split me open. Because I did understand. I understood too much. I understood the rage of smiling beside people who once laughed at you. I understood wanting the truth to interrupt a polished ending. I understood looking at graduation banners and thinking, why does everyone get closure, except the people who were hurt? But understanding is not permission. I did understand, I said. That's why I voted no. Principal DeMoss ordered the auditorium cleared by Rose, but the damage had already been contained in the one way that mattered. The slideshow had not played to families. Mina's parents did not see her medical photo. Daniel's grandmother did not watch him cry. The scholarship students were not turned into a punchline on a live stream. Graduation was bruised, not destroyed. Students were angry now, but their anger had somewhere accurate to go. The submitted anonymous clips were preserved for review, not projection. Lila was escorted to the office, Tessa sobbing behind her. As she passed beneath the booth, Lila looked up at me. You saved them, she said, voice low enough that only I heard through the open doorway. They won't save you. Maybe she meant the class would still blame me. Maybe she meant my secrets were still in her folders. Maybe she meant friendship, once broken, has a way of cutting even after the knife is gone. I wanted to say something final and devastating, the kind of line people quote in stories. Instead, I said the truth. I know. Her eyes flickered. Then she was gone. The investigation that followed was uglier than anyone wanted. Lila had not acted alone, though she had shaped the cruelty into a ceremony. Over 50 anonymous submissions were traced to student accounts. Some were stupid jokes sent without thinking. Some were vicious. Some revealed harm that did need addressing. Old bullying, exclusion, racism hidden as humor, classist comments, screenshot chains, fake accounts. Principal DeMoss created review panels with counselors and parents, which sounded boring and was therefore more useful than a public ambush. Students had to apologize privately where appropriate. Some lost leadership roles. Some received discipline. Some cried because they had been caught, not because they were sorry. Graduation rehearsal was postponed. The farewell slideshow was canceled entirely. In its place, each homeroom wrote collective letters to future students about what they wished they had done differently. It was less exciting than Lila's plan. It did not go viral. Nobody clapped dramatically. But nobody's private suffering became entertainment either. That was the point. Mr. Sallow apologized to the committee for not reading the proposal carefully enough. Priya apologized for nearly running an unapproved file. Mara was appointed media safety lead, a title she hated so much she accepted it out of spite. And me? I became the girl who voted against her best friend. Some people said it with respect. Some said it like betrayal. Both were true. Lila's final conversation with me happened 3 days before graduation. I found her in the old music room, sitting at the piano with no sheet music, pressing one key over and over without enough force to make a proper note. She looked tired. Not ruined, not monstrous, just tired in a way I had never seen because Lila usually turned exhaustion into elegance before anyone noticed. Principal Damas says I can walk at graduation but not speak, she said without looking at me. No leadership sash. No committee mention. No award. I stood near the door. Are you going to walk? She shrugged. My mother says I should. My father says we can appeal. My counselor says I should reflect. She finally looked at me. What do you say? The question hurt because my instinct still tried to answer as her best friend. I pushed that instinct gently aside. I say don't turn consequence into martyrdom. She smiled faintly. You sound like a pamphlet. You sound like you're trying not to apologize. The smile faded. Silence stretched between us, filled with 6 years of friendship and everything rotting under it. I did love you, she said. That was crueler than I expected, because I believed her. I know. Then why wasn't that enough? Her voice cracked. There she was, not the strategist, not the class president, not the girl with folders of pain. Just Lila, asking a question that had no safe answer. I sat on the edge of a desk across from her. Because love doesn't cancel harm. Sometimes it makes harm easier to access. She looked down at her hands. I was angry. I know. They deserved to feel exposed. Some did. Her head snapped up. Then why stop me? Because you made yourself judge, jury, editor, and star witness. And because you put innocent people beside guilty ones so the whole thing would feel bigger. She laughed bitterly. You always were better at sounding moral. No, I said. I was worse at admitting when you were wrong. She cried then. Not the controlled tears from committee meetings or hallway performances. Ugly tears. Silent at first, then shaking. I did not hug her. That was one of the hardest things I had ever done. In my first life, I hugged her after graduation collapsed while everyone else shouted, and she sobbed into my shoulder knowing my name was on the records too. That memory kept my hand still now. Is there a file on me? I asked. She wiped her face with her sleeve, then nodded. Did you plan to use it? Only if you tried to stop me after the vote. Honesty, at last, dressed as a wound. What's in it? She shook her head. You don't want to know. That's not your choice anymore. She opened her bag and removed a small USB drive with a silver ribbon tied around it. The same kind of ribbon from the proposal folder. This is everything, she said. Yours. Others.
Drafts.
Submissions.
Notes.
I already gave a copy to Principal Damas.
Why?
She looked at the piano keys. Because when the file played in the booth and you told her not to open yours unless necessary, I realized I had become the person who thought necessity belonged to me. I took the USB. It felt too light for the weight it carried. Is this an apology? No, she whispered. Not enough. Good, I said. She almost smiled. Then she said, I'm sorry, Avery. The words did not heal me. They did not restore the first life. They did not erase the fact that my best friend had built a weapon out of what I trusted her with. But they entered the room honestly, and that was more than I thought she could give. Graduation day came softer than expected. No grand scandal.
No viral collapse. No cruel montage.
The auditorium was filled with families holding flowers, teachers wearing formal gowns, students adjusting caps and pretending they were not emotional. The big screen showed only approved photos, sports carnivals, art shows, camp sunsets, science fairs, group shots where nobody was the punchline. Boring, some might say. Safe, I would answer. Safe is underrated by people who have never been ambushed. Principal Damas gave a speech about responsibility that everyone knew was about us, but polite enough for grandparents. Daniel spoke briefly as deputy captain. Priya ran the AV from a staff laptop. Mara stood beside her like a guard dog with a clipboard. Lila walked across the stage without her leadership sash. The applause for her was uncertain, scattered, then steadier because people are complicated and endings make them generous. She did not look at me until she reached the stairs. When she did, she gave a small nod. I returned it. Not forgiveness. Not friendship restored. Recognition that the girl who had once been my whole world had finally walked without holding the class hostage to her pain. When my name was called, I crossed the stage with my mother cheering somewhere in the middle rows. In my first life, graduation was the place my future became stained. In this one, it was just a stage. Wood under my shoes. Light in my eyes. A certificate in my hand. Nothing exploded. No secret appeared on screen. No gasp swallowed the room. I had never understood before that peace could feel like victory. After the ceremony, students gathered in the courtyard for photos. Some avoided me. Some thanked me awkwardly. Mina hugged me so hard my cap fell off. Daniel said, "I'm sorry I didn't vote no first," and I told him, "Vote sooner next time." Priya laughed when she heard that, then cried without warning. Mara took exactly one photo of all of us and called it evidence that we survived. Lila stood near the gates with her parents, holding a bouquet she did not seem to want. For a moment, our eyes met across the courtyard. I remembered us at 12, sharing chips behind the library. I remembered us at 15, whispering future plans. I remembered another life where I ruined myself defending her because I could not believe love and betrayal could share a face. Then I let the memory pass, not disappear.
Pass.
That night, I opened the USB she gave me. I did not open every file. Not immediately. My mother sat beside me with tea growing cold between us, one hand resting near mine but not touching unless I asked. The folder labeled Avery contained audio clips, screenshots, notes about my family, my fears, my scholarship status, my panic attack, my father, and lines written in Lila's precise handwriting. Use only if Avery turns. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I created a new folder called Returned, moved the files there, and encrypted it before sending a copy to Principal DeMoss as evidence. I did not delete it. Deleting is not healing. Sometimes keeping proof is how you stop pain from becoming fog. Afterward, I opened my notebook and wrote the lesson this life had carved into me. Loyalty without conscience is just permission. Then I wrote another line beneath it. A best friend can know where you are soft and still choose not to press. If she presses, the friendship was not the thing you thought it was. I cried then, finally. Not for the graduation plan or the scandal or even the first life. I cried for the good memories that were still good and still connected to someone who hurt me.
Grief is cruel that way.
It refuses to sort people into clean folders. Years later, when people asked about my proudest moment from school, they expected me to say winning an award or getting into university or walking across the graduation stage with my name clean. I always thought of a smaller moment. My hands flat on the committee table while Lila waited for my yes. That was the moment everything changed. Not because I stopped loving her. Because I stopped letting love vote for me. I voted against my best friend and saved the class from her cruel graduation plan. It was not glamorous. It did not feel heroic. It felt like tearing out a piece of my own history while everyone watched. But sometimes saving people looks like being misunderstood for long enough that the truth can arrive safely. Sometimes the bravest vote is the one that leaves you sitting alone after the meeting. And sometimes, if you are lucky enough to live the day twice, you learn that the person squeezing your wrist and whispering, "Trust me," might be the very reason you need to pull your hand away.
So I did.
I pulled away.
Ibuta no.
And this time, when graduation ended, we walked out under falling jacaranda petals with our secrets still our own.